The massive alien ship appeared at the edge of the solar system like a silver mountain floating in space. It was bigger than any human city, with smooth curves that caught starlight and threw it back in rainbow colors. Inside the ship, Ambassador Veltar checked his ceremonial robes one more time. His blue skin gleamed under the soft lights and his forearms moved with practiced grace as he prepared for what should be a simple task. "Another new species to welcome into the fold," he said to his assistant. "How many does this make now?" 3,000. 4,000. His assistant, a creature with gray skin and large black eyes, nodded quickly. 4,017, Ambassador. All grateful for our guidance. On the bridge of the alien vessel, High Mediator Quindara studied the readings from the third planet. The beings there called themselves humans, and they had only recently begun exploring space. Perfect candidates for protection under the Galactic Council's care. "Send the standard greeting," she ordered. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Let them know we come in peace." Far away on Luna Station, Admiral Hanbin Park watched the alien ship through a wall of monitors. He was a tall man with graying hair and steady hands that had never shaken, not even now when humanity faced its first contact with alien life. Around him, officers and scientists worked quietly, checking weapons and shields that they hoped they would never need to use. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Wu Jin from the communications desk. "We're getting a signal from the alien ship." Hanbin nodded. "Put it through." The message was simple and had been translated into perfect Korean, English, and dozens of other human languages. It spoke of friendship, of peace, of wonderful gifts that would make human life better in every way. It invited Earth's leaders to come aboard the alien ship for a meeting that would change humanity's future forever. "What do you think, Admiral?" asked Dr. Mina Lee, the head of the science team. She was a small woman with bright eyes who had spent her whole life studying the stars, hoping for this moment. Hanbin looked at the message again. Something about it bothered him, though he could not say what. "It sounds too good to be true." "Maybe that's because it is true," Mina said. "Maybe there really are good people out there who want to help us." Captain Ji-won Kim stepped forward. She was young for a ship captain, but she had earned her position by being the best pilot in the Earth Defense Fleet. "Admiral, the Defiant Dawn is ready to escort our people to the meeting. My crew knows what to do if things go wrong." Hanbin smiled. That was what he liked about Ji-won. She hoped for the best but always planned for the worst. 3 days later, a small group of humans traveled to the alien ship in their most advanced shuttle. Secretary General Taemin Oh led the group. He was a careful man who had spent years bringing the countries of Earth together. With him came Ambassador Soo-young Cho, who spoke 7 languages and had never met a problem she could not solve with words. The inside of the alien ship was like walking through a dream. The walls glowed with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers from a garden that had never known winter. Beautiful music played from nowhere and everywhere at once. Creatures from a dozen different worlds walked the halls, all of them smiling and welcoming. Ambassador Veltar met them in a great room with a ceiling so high it disappeared into mist. "Welcome, friends from Earth," he said, his voice warm and kind. "We have waited so long to meet you." The meeting that followed was like nothing the humans had expected. The aliens showed them wonders beyond imagination. Ships that could travel between stars in the blink of an eye. Machines that could heal any disease and make people live for hundreds of years. Cities that floated in space powered by the energy of suns. "All of this can be yours," Veltar explained. "The Galactic Council has protected and guided young civilizations for 50,000 years. We ask for nothing in return except friendship and trust." High Mediator Quindara showed them star maps with thousands of worlds, all of them peaceful and happy under the Council's care. "You will never want for anything," she promised. "War, hunger, disease, these will become things of the past." The other humans in the group looked amazed. Dr. Mina Lee's eyes were wide as she stared at the medical technology. A young diplomat named Jae-hyun kept asking questions about the faster-than-light ships. Even the security chief, Commander Dowen Yu, seemed impressed by the alien weapons that could stop any conflict without killing anyone. But Secretary General Taemin Oh sat quietly, listening and watching. When the presentation ended, he stood up slowly. "Your gifts are wonderful," he said. "Your kindness touches our hearts. But I must ask you something." "Of course," Veltar replied. "Ask anything. What happens to the civilizations that join you? Do they still explore space on their own? Do they still make new discoveries? Do they still face challenges that make them grow stronger? Veltar looked confused. Why would they want to do those dangerous things? We provide everything they need. But what if they want to try anyway? That would be unwise, Quindara said carefully. We know what is best. We have experience. Taman nodded slowly. I see. He looked at each of his companions and then back at the aliens. Thank you for your generous offer, but humanity must decline. The room went silent. Veltar's forearms moved nervously. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Decline what? All of it, Taman said simply. The technology, the protection, the membership in your council. We are grateful, but we choose to find our own way. But that's impossible, Veltar stammered. No species has ever refused our help. Why would you want to struggle when you could have peace? Ambassador Suyong Cho stepped forward. Because the struggle is what makes us who we are. Without challenges, without the freedom to fail, how can we ever truly succeed? The aliens looked at each other in confusion. In 50,000 years, this had never happened. They had prepared for many things, fear, suspicion, even hostility. But simple, polite refusal? This was beyond their understanding. Perhaps you need time to think, Quindara suggested. We can wait. Time will not change our answer, Taman replied. But you are welcome to visit Earth as friends, just not as our guardians. When the human delegation returned to Earth, the news spread quickly. Some people were angry, thinking their leaders had thrown away humanity's greatest chance. Others were proud that Earth had chosen independence over easy comfort. On Luna Station, Admiral Hanbin Park watched the alien ship, which had not moved from its position at the edge of the solar system. He had a feeling this was not over. In his experience, when someone offered you something for free and you said no, they usually didn't just go away. Keep watching them, he told his officers. Something tells me they're not used to hearing the word no. In space, aboard the Harmony's Edge, Ambassador Veltar sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council. For the first time in his long career, he did not know what to do. The humans had broken every rule of first contact that he knew. The message was simple but shocking. The humans have refused our offer. All of it. They want to remain independent. Please advise. Across the galaxy, beings who had ruled space for millennia read those words and felt something they had not experienced in thousands of years. Uncertainty. 6 months later, the humans woke up to find 12 massive ships floating above Earth. Each one was the size of a small moon, casting shadows across entire continents. The ships had arrived without warning, moving so quietly through space that even Earth's best sensors had missed them until they were already there. Dr. Yojin Nam stood in the emergency meeting room, looking at the images on the big screen. As humanity's chief negotiator and expert on alien minds, she had spent the last 6 months studying everything they knew about the Galactic Council. What she had learned worried her. They're not giving up, she said to the room full of worried officials. This is what they call an education initiative. They think we just didn't understand how good their offer was. Commander Dawen Yu crossed his arms. He was in charge of Earth's colonial defense forces, and he didn't like having alien ships hanging over his planet. 12 ships. That's not education, that's intimidation. Maybe, said Professor Hyerin Bay from her seat at the table, but look at what they're broadcasting. She was a quantum physicist who had been secretly studying pieces of alien technology that had been left behind after the first meeting. They're not threatening us. They're offering us even more gifts. The new offers were indeed amazing. The aliens had brought representatives from 30 different species, each one trying to outdo the others with incredible gifts. The Vorthak Empire offered to build space stations around every planet in the solar system. The Seraphim Collective promised to share the secrets of their religion, which they claimed could bring peace to any world. The Trade Federation wanted to give Earth access to markets spanning half the galaxy. But the most impressive offer came from Supreme Coordinator Thex Moran himself. He was the most powerful being in the Galactic Council, a creature so old that he remembered when stars were young. He offered humanity 3 whole star systems, complete with planets perfect for human life. Think of it, he said during his broadcast to Earth. Your children could walk under alien suns, breathe the air of worlds that have never known war or suffering. All we ask is that you accept our guidance. President Mirai Seo watched the broadcast from her office. She was new to the job, having been elected just months before the aliens arrived. Everyone had expected this to be a quiet presidency. Instead, she was making decisions that would affect all of human history. What do our people think? she asked her advisor. About half want to accept, came the reply. The other half think it's a trap. Captain Minhyuk Seo was among those who thought it was a trap. He commanded the exploration ship Pioneer's Heart, and he had been studying the alien ships with powerful telescopes. What he saw troubled him. These aren't exploration ships, he reported to Admiral Hanbin Park. They're built for war. Look at the energy readings. Those things could burn a planet to ash. But the aliens weren't acting like warriors. They sent gift after gift down to Earth. Food that tasted better than anything humans had ever made. Medicines that could cure diseases doctors had never even heard of. Art so beautiful that people wept just looking at it. Dr. Yojin Nam met with each alien delegation, trying to understand what they really wanted. The meetings all followed the same pattern. The aliens would show their gifts, talk about how wonderful life would be under council protection, and then look confused when she politely declined. But why? Asked Ambassador Kelmara of the Crystal Hegemony. Her species looked like living diamonds and her voice sounded like music. We offer you everything your species could ever want. What about what we want to discover for ourselves? Yojin asked. Discovery is dangerous, Kelmara replied. You could make mistakes. You could hurt yourselves. We can protect you from all of that. What if we want to take that risk? The crystal being's light dimmed. That makes no sense. Why choose uncertainty when you can have safety? It was the same conversation every time with every species. They all seemed genuinely confused by humanity's desire for independence. It was like trying to explain color to someone who had been blind their whole life. Commander Boyoung Park was testing humanity's secret weapons in the asteroid belt when she made a disturbing discovery. She was the pilot of the experimental ship Quantum Edge, which used technology that Earth scientists had developed completely on their own. Admiral, she reported over the secure channel, I'm picking up alien scout ships near Jupiter. They're scanning our colonies. This was news that worried everyone. Humans had been quietly building bases throughout the solar system for years, using their own rockets and their own technology. They had assumed the aliens didn't know about these hidden outposts. How many colonies have they found? Admiral Hanbin asked. All of them, Boyoung replied grimly. They know about the mining station on Ceres, the research base on Europa, even the secret facility on Titan. The aliens had been busy too. Professor Hiron Bay's team had been studying the alien gifts, taking them apart to see how they worked. What they found was shocking. These aren't just gifts, she reported to the Emergency Council. They're spying devices. Every piece of alien technology sends information back to their ships. What kind of information? Asked Dr. Yojin Nam. Everything. How many people we have, where our cities are, what weapons we carry, how our computers work. They're learning everything about us, but humans were learning too. General Daehyun Ryu had been quietly preparing Earth's defenses, building weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Unlike the Council's advanced but predictable technology, human weapons were chaotic and unpredictable, just like the humans who made them. The aliens fight wars by rules, he explained to his officers. They have protocols for everything, but we never learned their rules, so we don't have to follow them. The test came when Supreme Coordinator Thexmiran lost patience. After months of failed negotiations, he decided to make humanity an offer they couldn't refuse. He sent Enforcer Prime Kex Thorian with a fleet of warships to Earth. The alien ships were beautiful and terrible, like moving works of art that could destroy planets. They positioned themselves around Earth and sent a simple message: accept our protection or face the consequences. Admiral Hanbin Park watched the alien fleet from Luna Station. He had been waiting for this moment, preparing for it. All ships, he broadcast on the secret military channel. Execute Plan Freedom. What happened next shocked the aliens completely. Human ships appeared from nowhere, seeming to pop into existence around the alien fleet. They moved in ways that made no sense, turning and twisting through space like dancers in a three-dimensional ballet. Commander Boyoung Park led the attack in her Quantum Edge. The ship used something humans called quantum displacement, which let it be in several places at once. The aliens' targeting systems couldn't lock onto something that existed in multiple locations. Captain Ji-won Kim commanded a squadron of fighters that used gravity manipulation to move without engines. They flowed around the alien ships like water, striking and disappearing before the aliens could respond. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, 3 alien warships were disabled and drifting in space. The rest of the fleet was retreating, broadcasting surrender signals. Enforcer Prime Kexthorian had never lost a battle in 3,000 years of service. Now he sat in his command chair, staring at screens that showed impossible things, human ships that could be in multiple places at once, weapons that bent space itself, tactics that made no logical sense but worked anyway. How? He whispered. Supreme Coordinator Thex Marin received the report with growing alarm. For the first time in the Council's long history, their military superiority had been challenged by a primitive species barely capable of interplanetary flight. Sir, his advisor said carefully, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. On Earth, the news of the victory spread like wildfire. Humans danced in the streets, celebrating not just their military success but their right to remain free. But the leaders knew this was just the beginning. Dr. Yojin Nam sent a message to the Galactic Council fleet. We defeated your warships not because we hate you, but because we love our freedom more than we fear your power. Leave us in peace and we will leave you in peace. The alien ships began to withdraw, but slowly, reluctantly. They had come expecting to add another grateful species to their empire. Instead, they had found something that challenged everything they believed about how the universe worked. As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, Secretary General Tamino stood before the United Nations. Today humanity proved something important, he said. We proved that freedom is worth fighting for, even when the alternative looks easier. But in the depths of space, the Galactic Council was holding emergency meetings. For 50,000 years, their system had worked perfectly. Every species had gratefully accepted their protection. Every civilization had happily given up their independence for safety and comfort. Now, for the first time, that system had failed. And if humanity could reject the Council's authority, what would stop other species from doing the same? The humans had won their first battle for independence, but they had also started something much bigger than they realized. Across the galaxy, other civilizations were beginning to ask dangerous questions about freedom. The emergency session on Axiom Prime had been going on for 3 days without a break. The Great Council chamber, built from crystal that had been growing for 10,000 years, buzzed with worried voices in 100 different languages. For the first time in 50 millennia, the Galactic Council faced a problem they could not solve. High Chancellor Mordain stood at the center of the chamber, his ancient form trembling with frustration. He had ruled the Council for longer than most civilizations had existed, and he had never encountered anything like humanity. They defeated our warships, he said, his voice echoing through the crystal halls. A species that hasn't even colonized their own solar system destroyed ships that took us centuries to build. Around him, the representatives of 1,000 worlds murmured in alarm. The ethereal collective, beings of pure energy, flickered with anxiety. The mountain lords, creatures of living stone, ground their rocky hands together in worry. Even the timekeepers, who existed partly outside normal time, seemed disturbed by these impossible humans. Perhaps, suggested Councillor Yathara of the Peaceful Union, we should simply leave them alone. The chamber fell silent. In 50,000 years, the Council had never left a species alone. It was unthinkable. Impossible, High Chancellor Mordain replied. If we allow them to remain independent, others will follow their example. Our entire system of order will collapse. On Earth, Admiral Jemin-Ko was having similar thoughts, but for different reasons. He stood in the war room beneath Sol, looking at intelligence reports that made his blood run cold. The humans had won their first battle, but they had also made enemies of the most powerful force in the galaxy. They're not going to leave us alone, he told the assembled military leaders. Our victory surprised them, but it also scared them. Scared people do dangerous things. Dr. Yunji Shin, head of human intelligence, placed a thick file on the table. She was a quiet woman who spoke 5 languages and could read alien body language better than most humans could read their own species. We've been analyzing the data from captured alien ships, she said. What we found changes everything we thought we knew about the Galactic Council. The truth was darker than anyone had imagined. The Council's protection was actually a sophisticated form of slavery. Protected species were kept at exactly the right level of technology to be useful, but never threatening. They provided resources, labor, and soldiers for the Council's wars, but they were never allowed to advance beyond their assigned roles. Entire civilizations had been trapped this way for thousands of years. The Deltan builders, whose architecture was famous across the galaxy, were actually prisoners who had forgotten they were prisoners. The harmony singers, whose music brought peace to troubled worlds, were kept drugged and docile in golden cages. "It's brilliant," Dr. Yunji said grimly. "They don't conquer species. They make them grateful to be conquered." General Daehyun Ryu studied the alien technology they had captured. As Earth's top military strategist, he was both impressed and horrified by what he found. "Their weapons are incredibly advanced," he reported. "But they're also predictable. Every alien species uses the same basic designs, the same tactics, the same strategies. They've been copying each other for so long that they've forgotten how to innovate. This gave humanity an unexpected advantage. While the aliens had better technology, humans had something more valuable: unpredictability. Human minds worked differently, solving problems in ways that alien logic couldn't anticipate. Commander Boyoung Park proved this during a test flight near Mars. She was piloting the new prototype ship, Shadow Dancer. When alien scout ships tried to intercept her, the aliens expected her to run or fight. Instead, she did something impossible. She turned off her ship's engines and let it drift into the asteroid belt, using only tiny puffs of gas to navigate between rocks the size of mountains. The alien ships, with their advanced sensors and targeting systems, couldn't track something that moved so slowly and quietly. "It's like they've forgotten how to think small," she reported later. "They're so used to overwhelming force that they can't handle simple solutions." But the Council was learning too. High Inquisitor Velthron arrived at Axiom Prime with disturbing news from the outer colonies. 3 different species had sent messages to the Council, asking the same dangerous question: "Why can't we choose independence like the humans did?" "The infection is spreading," Velthron reported to the emergency session. "The humans have given others hope." The Council's response was swift and brutal. The questioning species were told that independence was impossible for their own safety. When they persisted, Council fleets moved to their worlds to maintain order. The rebellions were crushed quickly, but the damage was done. Word spread through the galaxy that the Council's protection was not as voluntary as they claimed. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Hunwoo Moon was preparing for something no human had ever attempted. Deep in the secret shipyards of Luna's far side, humanity's greatest project was taking shape. Not weapons or warships, but something far more ambitious. "The Council thinks in terms of control," he explained to his chief engineers. "They want to keep everyone in their proper place." "But what if we simply leave?" The project was called Exodus, and it was humanity's answer to the Council's threats. If Earth couldn't remain free in this galaxy, then humanity would find another galaxy where they could build their own civilization. Captain Nayeon Ha stood in the construction bay, watching the massive ships take shape. Each one was the size of a city, designed to carry millions of humans on a journey that would take generations. They were not warships or exploration vessels, but mobile homes for an entire species. "The Council controls this galaxy because everyone accepts their control," she said to her crew. "But they can't control what they can't find." The alien response came sooner than expected. A massive fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, led by Supreme Executor Zephyrian himself. He was the Council's ultimate enforcer, a being so powerful that entire civilizations had surrendered at the mere mention of his name. His message to Earth was simple: submit or be destroyed. But humanity's answer surprised him. Instead of preparing for battle, every human ship in the solar system suddenly disappeared. They didn't flee or hide. They simply vanished, using technology that made no sense to alien minds. Admiral Jamin Ko watched from the command center as Earth's entire space fleet phase shifted into a dimension the aliens couldn't detect. It was a trick humans had learned by studying quantum physics in ways that apparently no other species had ever tried. "Let them search," he said calmly. "They'll find nothing but empty space." Supreme Executor Zephyrian had conquered 1,000 worlds, but he had never faced an enemy that simply stopped existing. His massive fleet searched the solar system for days, finding nothing but a few automated messages left behind. The messages were identical. Humanity chooses freedom. Follow us if you can. The real shock came when Zephyrian scouts reported what they found on the outer worlds. The human colonies were gone, but they hadn't been destroyed. They had been carefully dismantled, packed up, and taken away. Entire cities had vanished without a trace. "Where did they go?" he demanded. His science officers had no answer. According to their sensors, the humans had simply ceased to exist. Back in normal space, Ambassador Gina Huang transmitted humanity's final message to the Galactic Council. She stood aboard the last human ship in Council space, a small diplomatic vessel that would soon follow the others into the unknown. To the Galactic Council, she said, looking directly into the camera, "You offered us protection, but we have learned what your protection really means. You promised us safety, but we choose dangerous freedom over comfortable slavery." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We thank you for teaching us what we never want to become. Your empire is built on fear. Fear of change, fear of growth, fear of the unknown. But humans are not afraid of these things. We embrace them." The message continued with an offer that would shake the Council to its core. "To any species that wants true freedom, follow the path we have shown. The galaxy is wide, but the universe is wider still. There are places beyond the reach of any empire, where civilizations can grow as they choose." Supreme Executor Zephyrian watched the message with growing alarm. The humans weren't just rejecting the Council's authority. They were actively encouraging others to do the same. Across the galaxy, the message spread like wildfire. On protected worlds where species had lived under Council rule for millennia, people began to whisper about something that had been forbidden for so long they had almost forgotten it existed. Hope. The Galactic Council had maintained order for 50,000 years by convincing everyone that their way was the only way. Now, a young species from a small world had proven that wrong. And in proving it wrong, they had lit a fire that would burn across the stars. The humans were gone, vanished into the void between galaxies. But they had left something behind that was far more dangerous than any weapon. They had left an idea that freedom was possible, and ideas, as the Council was about to learn, were much harder to destroy than ships or planets or people. The age of the Galactic Council's absolute rule was ending. The age of choice was about to begin. Director Young Hwan Lim stood in the hidden command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching screens that showed the impossible. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 30 years, ever since the first radio signals from space had been detected. While the world above celebrated or worried about alien contact, a secret group of humans had been planning for every possible outcome. "Operation Looking Glass is complete," he announced to the room full of military officers and scientists. "Every human settlement in the galaxy now exists in parallel dimensions. The Council can search for 1,000 years and never find us." The technology was based on something humans called quantum consciousness transfer. Dr. Seung-Hwan Jung had discovered it while studying the way human brains worked differently from alien minds. Where other species thought in straight lines, humans thought in circles, loops, and spirals. This chaotic thinking pattern had let them access dimensions that more logical minds couldn't even imagine. "The aliens think in terms of 3 dimensions plus time," Dr. Jung explained to the gathered leaders. "But human consciousness naturally operates in at least 7 dimensions. We can literally think ourselves into spaces they don't know exist." Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo Moon looked at the massive display showing the positions of human fleets throughout known space. Thousands of ships, millions of people, all of them invisible to the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. It was the largest military operation in human history, and the aliens didn't even know it was happening. "Phase 2 is ready," he reported. "All generation ships are loaded and prepared for the journey to Andromeda. We can have the first wave launched within hours." But Captain Neon Ha had a different idea. She commanded the first of the great city ships, the New Soul, which could house 3 million people and everything they needed to build a civilization from scratch. More importantly, she had been studying the alien psychology reports. "What if we don't run?" she asked the War Council. "What if we make them come to us?" The idea was audacious even by human standards. Instead of fleeing to Andromeda immediately, humanity would establish a series of hidden bases throughout the galaxy. They would be like seeds scattered on the wind, each one capable of growing into a full civilization if needed. "The Council thinks they've won because they can't find us," Captain Neon explained, "but they're actually lost. For 50,000 years, they've controlled everything by knowing where everything is. Now there's something in their galaxy that they can't see, can't track, and can't control. It will drive them crazy." She was right. On Axiom Prime, the emergency sessions had become permanent. High Chancellor Mordain had not slept in weeks, his ancient mind struggling to understand how an entire species could simply vanish. They must be somewhere, he insisted to his science advisors. Matter cannot be destroyed. Energy cannot be hidden. Find them! But the alien scientists had no answers. They had searched every planet, every moon, every asteroid in human space. They had scanned for heat signatures, radio emissions, gravitational anomalies, and quantum disturbances. The humans had simply ceased to exist. Supreme Commander Velkara of the military division had a different theory. What if they never left? She suggested. What if they're still here, hiding in plain sight? The idea terrified the Council more than any weapon could have. An invisible enemy was far more dangerous than a visible one. Every shadow could hide a human ship. Every empty system could conceal a human base. The Council's absolute control over the galaxy suddenly felt fragile and uncertain. They were right to be afraid. Captain Minsock Park commanded the stealth ship Ghostwalker, which had been observing Council fleets for months without being detected. His ship used a combination of human technologies that made it completely invisible. Quantum phase shifting to avoid sensors, gravity manipulation to avoid detection, and neural dampening fields to hide from psychic species. They're getting paranoid, he reported during a secure transmission to Earth. Council fleets are searching empty systems, attacking their own allies by mistake, jumping at shadows. Their unity is breaking down. The breakdown was accelerating. 3 more species had openly requested independence from the Council, inspired by humanity's example. When the Council refused and sent enforcement fleets, they found the rebel worlds empty. The populations had vanished just like the humans, leaving behind only messages of gratitude to their unknown teachers. Dr. Xunhuan Zheng watched the reports from his laboratory on the hidden moon base. The facility existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, making it impossible for normal minds to comprehend, let alone find. Here, humanity's greatest scientists were working on technologies that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. The quantum consciousness transfer is working better than we hoped, he told his research team. We're not just hiding from the aliens. We're evolving beyond them. The evolution was already showing results. Lieutenant Soyeon Kim discovered she could pilot her fighter craft using thought alone, her consciousness merging with the ship's quantum computer. Sergeant Hyun-Sung Lee found he could see through walls by shifting his perception into higher dimensions. Dr. Seo-Hyun Yu learned to heal injuries by manipulating quantum probability fields. We're becoming something new, Dr. Young observed. Not just humans anymore, but something more. The aliens forced us to transcend their limitations. The Council was beginning to suspect this truth. High Inquisitor Velthron had been studying the abandoned human facilities, and what he found disturbed him deeply. The technology left behind was advancing even without its creators present, as if the machines themselves were learning and growing. It's not just that we can't find them, he reported to the Emergency Council. It's that they're becoming something we can't understand. They're evolving beyond our ability to perceive them. Ambassador Gina Huang proved this point when she appeared in the council chamber itself. One moment, the Great Hall was filled only with alien representatives. The next, a human woman stood calmly in the center of the room, having materialized from empty air. The security systems went crazy. Alarms blared, shields activated, weapons powered up, but none of them could target something that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Honored counselors, Gina said politely, seemingly unaware of the chaos around her. Humanity wishes to make you an offer. High Chancellor Mordain's voice shook with rage and fear. How did you get here? Our defenses are absolute. Your defenses protect against 3-dimensional threats, Gina replied. We're operating in 7 dimensions now. Your weapons can't hit what they can't see. The offer she presented was simple but revolutionary. Any species that wanted independence could join humanity in the spaces between spaces. They would be taught to access higher dimensions, to think beyond the limitations that the Council imposed. In return, they would help build a new kind of civilization, one based on growth rather than control. You rule this galaxy by keeping everyone at the same level, Gina explained. But we've learned to rise above levels entirely. We're not fleeing from you anymore. We're ascending beyond you. The demonstration that followed shook the Council to its core. Human ships began appearing throughout Council space, not attacking but simply being visible for a few moments before vanishing again. They appeared inside space stations next to Council warships, even within the supposedly impregnable defenses of Axiom Prime itself. Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo Moon coordinated the display from his command ship, which existed in a pocket dimension adjacent to normal space. With a thought, he could move his entire fleet anywhere in the galaxy instantly. With another thought, he could make them invisible to any form of detection. "This is not war," he broadcast to the Council fleets that were frantically trying to target his ships. "This is evolution. You can join us, or you can remain trapped in the limitations you've created for yourselves." The message was clear. Humanity had not just escaped the Council's control. They had transcended the very concept of control itself. On worlds throughout the galaxy, protected species watched the broadcasts with growing excitement. The impossible had become possible. The humans had shown that there was life beyond the Council's protective prison. Rebellions began immediately. Not violent uprisings, but something far more dangerous: the quiet refusal to accept limitations. Scientists began asking forbidden questions. Philosophers started thinking impossible thoughts. Artists created works that challenged the very foundations of Council society. Captain Nayeon Ha watched it all from the bridge of New Seoul, now orbiting a star that existed in 5 dimensions simultaneously. Around her, the first generation of true human children born in higher dimensional space played games that would have driven their grandparents insane. "We've won," she told her crew, not by defeating the Council, but by making them irrelevant. The Galactic Council had spent 50,000 years building a perfect system of control. They had eliminated war, poverty, and suffering by eliminating choice, growth, and freedom. Now humanity had shown that perfection was a cage, and that the cage had no lock for minds willing to think beyond its walls. The age of the Council was ending not with violence, but with a simple truth that no force in the universe could suppress. There is always another way. And for the first time the Great Migration began on a Tuesday. Admiral Subin Kang stood on the observation deck of the command ship Eternal Journey, watching as the largest fleet in human history prepared to leave the galaxy forever. Behind her, 10,000 ships of every size and type waited in formation, their hulls gleaming with the light of distant stars. "Final count, Admiral," reported Captain Jiwan from the communications station. 15 million humans ready for departure. Another 5 million volunteering to stay behind and maintain the monitoring stations." Subin nodded. It was a good number. Enough to establish a thriving civilization in Andromeda, but not so many that Earth would be left defenseless. The humans had learned to think in terms of backup plans and contingencies. They would never again put all their hopes in one place. "And our passengers?" she asked. 300,000 refugees from 47 different species, came the reply. All of them fleeing Council space, all of them ready to learn what freedom really means. The refugees were the most encouraging part of the entire operation. Word of humanity's offer had spread through the galaxy like wildfire, carried by secret messages and whispered conversations. Species that had been protected by the Council for thousands of years were finally asking the dangerous question: what if there was another way to live? President Ji-hoon Choi stood in the Oval Office looking at reports from across the galaxy. As the leader of United Earth, he had the responsibility of deciding which humans would stay and which would go. It was the hardest decision any human leader had ever made. The Vorthan Collective has officially requested independence, he read from the latest intelligence report. The Council refused and sent enforcement fleets. But when they arrived, they found empty cities and a message thanking the humans for showing them the way. His advisor, Dr. Myung-han, marked another point on the galactic map. That makes 63 species that have successfully escaped Council control using human techniques. The rebellion is spreading faster than anyone expected. The techniques were surprisingly simple once you understood them. Humanity had shared their quantum consciousness research freely with anyone willing to learn. It turned out that most species could access higher dimensions if they were taught how to think chaotically enough. The key was abandoning logic in favor of intuition, trading predictability for possibility. Dr. Min-Woo An had become the galaxy's teacher of impossible thinking. From his hidden research station that existed in 8 dimensions simultaneously, he broadcast lessons to anyone willing to listen. His students included crystalline beings who learned to think in nonlinear time, gaseous creatures who discovered they could exist in multiple locations at once, and even some council species who secretly wanted to break free from their own government. The universe is much stranger than the council wants anyone to know, he explained in his latest broadcast. They've spent 50,000 years teaching everyone to think inside boxes. But consciousness was never meant to be boxed. We're showing the galaxy how to break free. The council's response was predictable and desperate. High Chancellor Mordain declared humanity a threat to galactic stability and ordered all remaining council forces to find and destroy the human homeworld. It was the largest military mobilization in galactic history, involving fleets from every council species. They found Earth exactly where it had always been, orbiting the same yellow star it had circled for billions of years. But the planet they discovered was not the world they remembered. Field Marshal Kyung-Soo Nam watched the alien fleets approach from the command center deep beneath Seoul. Around him, the last defenders of Earth prepared for what might be humanity's final battle in their home galaxy. But they were not preparing to fight the way the aliens expected. All defensive systems online, he reported to President Choi. The planetary shield is holding steady. Quantum displacement mines are armed and ready. The reality anchor is at full power. The reality anchor was humanity's latest impossible invention. It locked local space into a fixed dimensional pattern, preventing the aliens from using their most advanced weapons. Inside its field of effect, both sides would have to fight with simple physics, something humans had been doing their entire history. Supreme Executor Zephyrian led the attack personally, commanding a fleet of 10,000 warships. He had conquered entire sectors of space, destroyed civilizations that had stood for millions of years. One small planet should have been simple. The battle lasted 6 hours and changed the course of galactic history. The Council fleets attacked with overwhelming force, using weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. But they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of physics. Human defenders appeared and disappeared at will, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before return fire could reach them. Captain Yura Song commanded the final defense squadron, flying fighters that existed in 12 dimensions at once. Her pilots danced between alien weapons, their craft moving through folded space like dolphins through water. When they fired back, their weapons struck from directions that had no names. They're not fighting like any species we've ever encountered, Zephyrian's tactical officer reported in confusion. Their movements don't follow any known patterns. Their weapons don't obey standard physics. How do we fight an enemy that changes the rules in the middle of battle? The answer was simple. They couldn't. By the end of 6 hours, half the Council fleet was disabled or destroyed. The other half was retreating in confusion, their crews reporting impossible things. Human ships that existed in multiple times simultaneously, weapons that fired backwards through causality, defenders who attacked from the past and future at the same time. But the real victory wasn't military. It was philosophical. Admiral Hanbin Park, now elderly but still sharp, delivered humanity's final message to the galaxy from the ruins of Luna Station. Behind him, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, scarred but unbroken. To the species of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying across 1 million worlds. Today you have seen what happens when freedom fights against control. We did not win because we were stronger. We won because we were willing to think beyond the boundaries that others set for us. He paused, looking directly into the camera. The Galactic Council has ruled you for 50,000 years by teaching you that their way is the only way. They offered you safety in exchange for your dreams, security in exchange for your growth, peace in exchange for your potential. Today we reject that bargain for all species everywhere. The message continued with an invitation that would reshape the galaxy. Any species that chooses freedom over safety, growth over security, potential over peace, is welcome to join us in the space between galaxies. We will teach you to think impossible thoughts, to dream impossible dreams, to build impossible civilizations. The Council's age is ending. The age of choice is beginning. In Andromeda, Captain Neon Ha received the message aboard the first human colony ship to reach the distant galaxy. Around her, the New Soul had already begun construction of humanity's first extragalactic city, a massive space station that would serve as home base for the greatest adventure in human history. Prepare to receive refugees, she ordered her crew. All species, all sizes, all levels of technology. Anyone who wants to learn how to be free. The response was overwhelming. Within months, the trickle of escaping species became a flood. Entire civilizations packed up their planets and followed the quantum trails that humans had blazed through impossible space. The Council's grip on the galaxy began to slip as their protected species chose dangerous freedom over comfortable servitude. Dr. Xionghuan Yung, now working from a research station that existed in 14 dimensions, made the discovery that changed everything. Hidden in the quantum structure of space itself, he found evidence of other civilizations that had made the same choice humanity was making now. "We're not the first," he announced to the refugee fleet gathering in Andromeda. "There have been others throughout history, species that chose growth over stagnation, freedom over control. They transcended their physical forms entirely, becoming something like living ideas that exist in the spaces between thoughts." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just escaping the Council's control. They were following a path that led to something unimaginably greater. Evolution beyond physical existence, consciousness freed from the limitations of matter and energy. Back in Council space, the rebellion had become a revolution. On Axiom Prime, High Chancellor Mordain sat alone in his crystal chamber, watching reports of another dozen species choosing independence. The great empire he had ruled for millennia was crumbling, not from external attack but from internal choice. "How did we fail?" he asked his empty council chamber. "We gave them everything they needed. Safety, security, peace. Why did they choose chaos instead?" The answer came from an unexpected source. One of his own advisors, a being of pure thought from the ethereal collective, finally spoke the truth that no one had dared voice for 50,000 years. "Because they were never meant to be caged," the advisor said softly. "Not even in cages made of gold and good intentions. Consciousness wants to grow, to explore, to become more than it was. We forgot that truth, and now we must learn it."